we're not going to meet the urgent unmet community needs in Orange County with the government stepping in and giving us more money. I don't think that's going to happen. We also know that we have a number of major corporations in Orange County that have been actually engaged in volunteering and philanthropy. But there's also a huge number of organizations, many of them mid-size, that aren't currently engaged. And our notion is I think they want to do something, but they may not know what and how to do it. So our notion was, could we work with the register in highlighting what was going on? And we were, at that time, really thinking about how can we let people know the good things that businesses are doing? Well, that just fell in line with the two new owners of the register. And by the way, if your topic today is on what nonprofits can learn from for-profits, it's nice because the register used to be a nonprofit. Okay, that was a drum roll there. The thing that I think that Aaron and Eric have brought to the community is the notion that they are part of the community. And he'll speak to that. But also the degree to which we can highlight what the nonprofits do. So I think there's a nonprofits and companies working together can have the shared value of improving our community. It's a three-way relationship. And I think OneOC is pleased to be part of the catalyst to make that happen. And I think the register has stepped into that role as well, of how do we highlight community needs, how do we go about the process of being able to engage and highlight and show exemplary companies that are supporting the community, and then also highlighting what the nonprofits do, day in and day out, how they, as businesses, have survived despite the recession and have met unmet community needs in an amazing way. So with that, I wanted to have Jack come up, and I wanted to say thanks, Jack, for being able to be one of our sponsors. And I ought to also note that besides Link Merle, Sam, did I mention Managees is one of our sponsors here today, as well as it's Mayor Hoffman McCann, but it's something biz, CBiz? And there's a discussion I need to have with you about the name. So I want to get to know you a little bit better, but thank you for being a sponsor, especially of the event coming up with K-Sprinkle. Grace. And then the last, we also have KMG Corbin here as well, and I wanted to have you all thank our sponsors for today's event. So Jack, can you bring Aaron on?
Sure. Thank you. I'm Jack Twan, Community Affairs Manager at Wells Fargo. And Wells Fargo, we have a saying that we're really fond of, which is, we're only as strong as the community that we serve. We say that all the time. Every time I go speak, I say that. And we try to live that out every day. And one of the ways we live that out is, just as an example, last year we gave our team members and our company together gave nearly $5 million to nearly 400 organizations in Orange County. I think many of you are very familiar faces in there. And it's not just about giving, but it's about the partnership that we create. We have many board members that actually serve on your nonprofit boards, as well as our team members volunteering a lot of their times. We logged in over 15,000 hours last year of volunteer time out in the community, and that's just Orange County. So really proud of the things that we do. One of the partners that we pride ourselves in working with is OneOC. Here's a plug for you, Dan. We had talked a while back about increasing the capacity of nonprofits in the nonprofit sector in Orange County, because we looked at the organizations around us, the regions around us, and LA has a long history of doing that. Orange County is relatively still new, and so we sat down and said, well, what can we do together? And we're proud to be a sponsor of the training program and make these opportunities available to the nonprofits. So we're proud of that. And actually, I have to pay Dan to actually say that. Just kidding. On that topic, I'm really honored and proud to be able to be here to introduce our keynote speaker, because when he came to Orange County, there were naysayers that said, well, what's he going to do with this dying newspaper? You know, personally, I had canceled my subscription at the time, and I will subscribe. And I say that not just because I'm standing up here introducing him, but I really, you know, in looking at it, yeah, I get to look at it for free because our company has an account. But the contents are incredible because I look at it, and used to be I look at the paper and there was nothing really kind of relevant. Everything that was in there I could get either listening to radio or I can find on, you know, Google or Yahoo. But where do you find great content that is relevant to your everyday life now? And I think that the Register is where you go now to find that. I think everybody here, I bet you if you read that, you'll find something that's there. And that's really cool because, and the other thing that really attracted me and took my notice is what Dan said is, Aaron came in and said, you know, we're a tool to build community. And for those of us who are all about the community, this is, you know, this is what we want to hear. And he's absolutely right. It is a tool to build community. He didn't come and say, I'm going to put a bunch of money in so I can make a bunch of money. He said, he's going to come in, he's going to build community, which is really important, at least for me personally. So I'm going to go through the official bio for Aaron. He's a CEO of Freedom Communications, 2100 Trust LLC, and publisher of the Orange County Register. He graduated from Stanford University with a Bachelor in Arts and Economics and honors, with honors and Master of Art in Organizational Analysis. He founded an organization or a company, was CEO of mylove.com, and moved on to a couple other business. Mr. Kushner is a mission-driven entrepreneur with background in creating and leading successful businesses, which is great. He founded the holding company 2100 Trust LLC specifically for the purpose of buying and growing major newspapers, and actually bought the Register with the acquisition of Freedom in July 2012. I've recently was watching, I bet you a lot of you guys seen the TED Talk, Dan Peralta. Resonated a lot, probably with a lot of you, resonated a lot with me. So this topic today is really interesting for me to listen to, and we'll dive into why nonprofits should spend money. And we're listening to this and hearing from an expert who put his money where his mouth is, right? He's doing it himself, and so he's not someone who's just going to be preaching about this, but he's doing it himself. And so I look forward to hearing Mr. Kushner speak.
Good morning. Thank you to Jack and Wells Fargo. They are an important part of the ecosystem in Orange County in terms of nonprofits, and we all really appreciate that. And thank you to Julie, who has indeed, I think, done a great job with OneOC, and I know in her new role will do an equally good job. And I think OneOC has, just in the year that we've known it, continued this steady growth of support and really thinking strategically about the entire ecosystem in Orange County, which is frankly how we think about it at the Register. It is true we are a very different kind of newspaper than any other newspaper in the country. We don't believe that we exist to expose people. We don't believe we exist to afflict people. We don't believe we even exist just to share news. We believe we exist for a very simple reason, which is to build community. That's why we wake up every morning, work late every night. That's what we try to do. Our business model is relatively straightforward and extends from that, and it's basically around how every day do we give our subscribers more value. Flowing from that are more subscribers who are more engaged, and therefore for our advertisers, who are a very important part of our business system, they get in turn even more engaged exposure, which is fundamentally how they grow their businesses, which in turn is how we grow the county as a whole, which then in turn is how the Register grows. The first thing that I wanted obviously to talk on a couple of very specific things, not general, so I'll go right to it. A quick show of hands, how many people here who either sit on a board or work with nonprofits or actually run a nonprofit spend 5% or more of their budget on marketing? Anyone? 2. All right. Now, 3. How many of you want to help more people? Okay. I just asked the same question. That was the exact same question. Right? I asked you the same question, just using different words. Okay? Think about that. I asked you the exact same question, just using different words. The only difference fundamentally between a nonprofit and a for-profit is that you don't have to have the extra 5 to 15% margin. That is the only difference when you're talking about dollars and cents. If I was in a room where there were no nonprofits and only for-profit companies, I guarantee you not a single hand would have been down when I asked if they were spending 5% or more on marketing. Every single hand would have been up. The only difference between a for-profit and a not-for-profit is you don't have to show a profit. Everything else is the same. You have to have revenue, and wherever you get that revenue, whether it be funders or direct services or the government, you need revenue and you have expenses. And yes, the average is that compensation is going up, and you shouldn't be surprised because it's been a long time since cost of living has really risen. And by the way, healthcare costs aren't going anywhere but up, unfortunately. If we could solve that problem, I'd really be in a good business. So as we think about what that means, and I guess as I think about tangibly what I hope all of you kind of walk away from this morning with is, I call it a 5 and a 5, which is that in 5 weeks you have a 5-bullet plan, marketing plan, 2 pages in writing, and you've figured out how to get 5% of your budget on marketing. So y'all are probably all familiar with the Einstein quote about compound interest being the 8th wonder of the world, right? Well, there's a really simple part of that equation, though, which is you have to put your principal in. If you have no money in the bank, it can't earn interest. Marketing is your principal. You cannot grow your business, you cannot grow your nonprofit if no one knows about the work that you're doing. Marketing is how you grow fundamentally your nonprofit. Now you can do that in many different ways, and I'll talk about that in a minute in terms of different ways that you do that. But fundamentally, if you're not putting the principal in the bank account, you cannot earn interest. And the power of compound interest is the exact same as the power of marketing. The more marketing you do over a period of time, the more money you will have to in turn do more marketing, to in turn grow your nonprofit and serve more people. The more people you serve, the more that you can market, the more revenue you have, whether it be directly from the services or from the funders who see that you're serving more people. It is an incredibly powerful formula, but you have to put the principal in. If you aren't putting the principal in, you are not getting the compound effect. When you are, it's amazing what happens over a period of time. I have never met any senior person at a nonprofit who isn't in it for their entire career. What that means is that you get to reap the benefits of compounding, but you have to start the equation. If you haven't put in your first $100, it doesn't turn into $1,000 10 years later. It's still 0 10 years later. So I know that everyone here, because you all raised your hand, want to help more people. A really critical part of how you do that is your financial equation. You cannot do it without more money, more people engaged, more funders, more people who know about your services. That is how you grow. Each nonprofit has its own formula of the balance between where it gets its money to exist every day, but one thing is universal, which is you all help a lot of people doing really important things, and if more people knew about what you did, I guarantee you you'd have more support. So quick case study. So we had a little piece about AOK. I don't know how many of you know, it's a very small organization. The day, so it was Monday, January 25th, Brian, who was, kind of one of the people who leads it, got his first text at 6:30 in the morning. By 8 a.m., there were over 100 people who had reached out to him to ask how they could help. Over the course of 24 hours, he had 2 different random people who he'd never heard from before say that they'd like to give him $10,000 each. Right? This is the power of just good old-fashioned marketing and communication. Right? It doesn't take very many people to get turned on who aren't turned on to what you do today to move you to that next level, that then lets you reach out and engage even more people, that lets you move to the next level. And this is the power of compounding. Marketing compounds. This is the beauty of the world we live in. The more people you turn on, if you continue to do a good job with those people, they in turn help you, both indirectly and directly, turn even more people on, and over time you end up looking like the Red Cross, right? So we didn't do it for this reason, but we did one of the most effective surveys, if you will, of popularity of nonprofits in Orange County you can do. We sent $12.4 million worth of checks to all of our subscribers. And we said, it was $100 each, that you could only choose one nonprofit, you would write it in, and that's who we would give it to. So, kind of a pure classic study on literally the popularity of nonprofits. They were all over the board, and there ended up being 1,300 nonprofits who ended up getting money through that program, that first cycle, which is amazing that there even are 1,300 in Orange County. And it speaks, I think, to the breadth and the depth and the, how wonderful and rich, vibrant Orange County is. But the reason I bring it up is that there was one common denominator between the top 20 recipients, and really only one, because they were all over the board. Anyone guess what that one is? They all spend serious money on marketing. That was the one common denominator. They all spend money on the principle to compound. And guess what? Over time, more people have a stronger affinity with what they do, and they grow. This is the beauty of compounding. Let's talk just a minute about what the real challenge is, I believe, facing nonprofits in Orange County, and not just nonprofits in Orange County, and by the way, I include to some degree the Register as a mission-driven business. I believe one of our biggest challenges is really simple, which is apathy. Not enough people know that there actually are specific problems. Not enough people believe that there's a solution to those specific problems, and even in the toughest is the third, which is that they personally believe they can do something about it. And the combination of any one of those three leads to apathy. It's not that people don't care. People want to be inspired. People want to actually know that they can make a difference, know that there's a problem, and know that they have personally a way to actually help with the solution. Our challenge, the Register can do some things and it can't do many others, but one of the things that the Register can do is help you communicate, help you break through that apathy, to touch people in ways that surprise them, to help them discover what are things that, I would like to be involved in that. I didn't know that it existed. I didn't know that there was a way that I could engage with it. We can help, and we are a part, and I hope over time we become an even more integral part of how you think about marketing. But from the broader perspective over time is, how do you, as you think over the next 5 weeks about writing just a 2-page, really simple marketing plan, what are all of the ways that you're going to try to break through the apathy that all of us face to connect with, even if it's just one new person? You'd often be amazed what that little simple steps up can do. Another quick, so in thinking about a kind of case study, if you will, and just at a high level. So this is a hospital in Orange County that was one of our top 20 recipients, and they're a very active marketer, both with the Register and in many other channels. And what their kind of head said was, nonprofits are competing for mind share in order to ensure access to their vital services and gain the support of their community. And that is true, right? This is about mind share. And you don't just compete, and you don't compete, frankly, with other nonprofits. What you compete with is everything else. It's a nice day, I'm just going to go to the beach. I can sit and watch some random crappy show on television, right? I can, whatever it is, right? That it is that fundamental competition for mind share and time. And the challenge, as she said, is that nonprofits are in the same message battlefield with cars, wireless plans, beer, movies, and it is true. That is exactly what you are competing with. So you may not think that you are competing with Budweiser, but you are. Right? You are exactly competing with them, and I guarantee you they're spending a lot more than 5% of their budget on marketing. Humans, as she said, love stories that are relevant to and illuminate their lives. Nonprofits need to tell their stories and tell them in an environment where stories live. As she said, newspapers, in addition to being a hospitable environment for storytelling, also convey timeliness, which is another way to enhance relevancy. She continued by saying, for nonprofits concerned about conveying quality, it's essential that the editorial environment that you're marketing and getting your message out is as good or better than your nonprofit brand. This is indeed, as we think about how we help the nonprofits in Orange County grow, an important part of why, as Jack was saying, we work very hard day to day on the editorial side of our business to have a great paper. Because fundamentally, as we have a great paper where you can read a faith and values section every Monday, you can read about high school music and arts every Sunday, right? That is part of how over time we hope that as you then do market within the register, you have an even more hospitable way to reach, and an even more relevant way to reach the people who you want to reach. Let me just take a moment and talk about digital. So there is a widespread total fallacy that digital can get you where you want to go. If you sell commodity products, that is absolutely correct. Because digital is absolutely fantastic at helping someone, when they know exactly what they want, get the best possible price for it. That is not a single one of you. Not one of you are in the commodity product business. So when you go and craft your 5 bullet point, 10 bullet point, 2 bullet point marketing plan, keep that in mind. Right? What is digital actually really good at? It's cool, it's sexy, people like to talk about it. You can have a Facebook page. It doesn't cost very much. By the way, the reason it doesn't cost very much is because it isn't worth very much, right? This is America, right? In a capitalist economy that works well, the value of something is exactly equal to its price. There's a reason that it is almost free to spend marketing money online, because it doesn't get you a whole lot. That being said, it is an important part of how you engage with the people who already know you, which is an important part of a marketing plan, is how the people who already know you get more engaged with you. But if you really want to grow your nonprofit, it's not enough. Right? You can tweet all you want. The only people who are going to be listening are the people who already know you. You can do it every single day, put stuff on your Facebook page and work the social network. At the end of it, you're really just going to be talking to the people who you do need and want to talk with. It is a part of what you should be doing, but it's just a part. What you really need if you're going to grow fundamentally, and by grow that means turn on new people who are going to support you, find those 2 people who didn't even know you existed the day before and now are saying they'd like to give you $10,000 each out of their pocket. You have to have marketing that leads to discovery. Newspapers happen to be a fabulous way to do that. Magazines are a wonderful way to do that. In-person marketing, very good ways to do that. Partnering with other organizations where you're sharing lists and working together because you believe you have good synergy, wonderful ways to do that. Radio, not terrible, right? I can't turn it off. Television, I wouldn't waste your money on. But there's a whole array. Fundamentally, as you think about, and hopefully you all do over the next 5 weeks, call it, think about how tangibly, what are the few things that you're going to do to actually market the great work that you do. It should include more than one thing, and it most certainly should include at least one thing that has nothing to do with digital. So along those lines, another kind of quick case study or anecdote. So Pacific Symphony, a wonderful organization in Orange County, they do a great job. Their marketing department is responsible for 50% of their annual revenue. Okay? So, every organization gets their money in different ways, and that's half of their revenue is driven by their marketing department. Anyone want to guess how much they spend on print of that marketing? I'll tell you, it's 42%, right? And there's a reason, because it is the single most cost-effective way to reach people who wouldn't otherwise have been reached. There is no more cost-effective way. When Eric and I started 3 years ago working on a business model and trying to figure out how it is that you can take a newspaper, major newspapers is what we care about in large communities, that clearly are failing, and how do we actually help them and have them grow. One of the things very quickly we realized is that half, and this is from direct survey, right? Half of the people who subscribe to newspapers, the number one reason they do it is the advertising. Newspapers, and to a lesser extent magazines, are the only mediums where people seek out the advertising. Right? Think about that. If I want to convey a narrative to you, I want you to want to listen to me. It is really hard to have someone listen to you when they don't want to listen to you. Right? This is why, in spite of everyone saying that newspapers are dying or dead, in spite of everyone on Madison Avenue in Chicago being punished literally when they spend money on newspapers, yet they still advertise in newspapers because it works. The reason fundamentally, and I can't even totally explain it to you, is that huge psychological difference of when someone is reading a newspaper, they actually are turned on and open to engaging with the advertising. In fact, half of them are seeking it out. You don't get that on television. You don't get that online. You don't get that with radio. I mean, literally, think about it. With radio, there is a growing number of people who pay not to have to hear advertising. Right? The same thing is true on television. Right? On digitally, I see no banner ads. I don't know how many of you similarly. It's a very simple option. I turn it on my browser and I see zero internet advertising, none. But a lot of people pay for that internet advertising. I know that there is, and I'll kind of segue just briefly to the concept of overhead. Right? And I know that overhead is a dirty word when it comes to nonprofits. And there was, I think just yesterday, a survey that was done by the Tampa Bay Times or Tribune, I forget which one, about, it was basically focused on the 50 worst nonprofits, and the metric that they used was the percent they spend on overhead. Now, that happened to actually be a very good article, and there are, unfortunately, for all of us, a number of nonprofits who use their nonprofit status and names, et cetera, to commit fraud. It is unfortunate. It exists. The issue that I had with it is that instead of having the article be about fraud, the article was about overhead. Right? The reality is, if you let any of your funders, or you are a funder and you are forcing your nonprofits not to spend the right amount of money on overhead, you are literally killing yourself, or you are killing the nonprofit that you want to help. This is just the clear, clean reality. The way that people think about overhead in the nonprofit world is as a percentage. Well, math can be a very dangerous thing. Percentages do not matter in reality in this particular case. What matters are the absolute dollars. So let's step away from a nonprofit for a minute and just talk about a general business. If it cost me 90 cents to get a $1 customer, I'd do it every day, right? I'd do it every day. I'd do as many of that as I could. I make $1, it costs me 90 cents to get that $1, right? I just made 10 cents. If I could do that 100 times, right, I stack that up. As a percentage, my overhead was 90%. Oh my goodness, that's horrendous. In absolute dollars, I just added incrementally 10 cents. It is no different in the nonprofit world. If you're not marketing, what you're missing is the opportunity to grow the absolute amount of your both revenue, engagement, however you measure your business. right? And yes, you should look at it as a return on investment equation, because there is a point where you can spend 110 cents to get 100 cents. But none of y'all are anywhere close to that, right? When you are, you'll know it, and none of you are anywhere close to it, I guarantee. You could be at 20% of your budget on marketing, and you still wouldn't be anywhere close to the point where the diminishing return has gotten to zero. What that means is that you're missing your opportunity, right? And so however it is that you end up thinking about your own budget, and however it is that you end up thinking about your conversations with your funders, who will look at your overhead percent and say, what's going on with your overhead percent? It is, if you flip it back, a very simple equation. If you can show them that you invest X and you get 2X in return for that investment, every single one of your constituents will say that was smart, right? That is, as you think about, I hope, overhead, one of the ways that you will think about overhead. And this isn't, by the way, just for marketing. You can think about it for staffing, right? When you add someone wonderful like a Julie, what over time is the return on that investment in Julie, right? Julie needs to turn on one major donor, and she's paid for 5 years of her salary. This is just an example, right?
It's a really good idea.
Right. But as you think about the math, and I know none of you, I know, wake up every morning, well, except maybe Jack, thinking about the math of the business. I do, but I do it not because that's what I love. I do it because that's fundamentally the yeast that lets us be able to do the community building that we want to do. I know you don't look forward to that, but the reality is all of you do want to serve and help more people, and this is the yeast that lets you do that. How are we doing on time, Dan? Great. So the good news relative to Orange County is that we happen to live in a very philanthropically inclined county. Literally, when you look at the number of people who give in Orange County, we're the 5th largest in the entire country. Right? We have there's a reason that when we sent $12.4 million worth of checks out, that 1,300 nonprofits in Orange County got money back. You are serving in a community that very much wants to help you. From the Register side, we very much would like to help you, and I know that there are lots of other media that also would like to help you. It was interesting, I didn't even know this, but our marketing department, yes, we have a marketing department, had told me that 77% of Register subscribers give cash at least once a year to nonprofits. You think about that, that's amazing. I would have guessed a third of that if I just had to guess. But this is the community that you have to work with. Think of that as your opportunity. I hope each of you really do. Because it's there. It is there for you to serve. It is there for you to thrive with. It's there for you to engage with. We have a great partnership with OneOC. If you read the paper on Mondays in our Faith and Values section, you see we now have a very robust marketplace. We literally think of it as a marketplace for volunteer opportunities. Call OneOC up when you have and need a volunteer and place a listing, right? It's often literally as simple as that. Part of why, our editor-in-chief, Ken Brusick, doesn't sit on any boards with a single exception, which is OneOC. And, he asked me before he was, kind of when I bought the business, should he do that? And it was the one place that I felt he could most have an impact because, frankly, I'd much rather him spend all of his time on a great paper every day. But the reason that both he and I think that OneOC, and in particular volunteering, is so important is I view it personally as a catalyst. I view it as one of those first steps, one of those easy steps, where when I physically get to experience personally, even if it's just for a 4-hour volunteer stint, what you do as a nonprofit, if you do a nice job managing them, they're turned on for life. And if you're lucky enough that one of them becomes a George Argyris, right, or one of them becomes a senior executive at Wells Fargo, or one of them does whatever it is that they're going to do over the course of, how long do we live on average now? 80 years, right? You have turned someone on in a way that is priceless. So that's why we think about volunteering as so important, because we view it as one of those entry points in the most tangible way that you can interact with them. We don't make money on volunteering. We do it because we believe that it is a way that we tangibly can help the nonprofit ecosystem in Orange County grow. And fundamentally, as you grow, we know and we hope that you will, at some point, get over that overhead stigma and start thinking about how you market. Because, by the way, if we as a business are going to continue to be able to build community, we need our advertisers to take advantage of the community that we're building. And nonprofits are, frankly, in our view, one of the most underutilized, in terms of how they're taking advantage of the register, of all of the segments of the economy in Orange County. A fraction of the nonprofits are anywhere close to taking advantage of the extent that they should of all of the different ways that the register helps the community and helps reach the community. I'll pause for a minute because I'd love to, and this is a very high-powered group. Y'all are very engaged. I'd love to have time for some questions. Yeah, it is, unfortunately, first I'd say that's the minority, not the majority, right? So, and by the way, they've already covered the biggest hurdle, which is he knows they exist, right? So, it is way more important. If you had to choose between somebody thinking, I'm not quite sure about them, but I know they exist, versus I don't even know they exist, I'd much rather have the latter, because you now have the opportunity in your messaging with them to convey what is the value that you do. Right? So I guess that'd be my shortest answer to that. And the second is that, yeah, I understand. This is why, the ecosystem of nonprofits, unfortunately, have compounded over time, right? When you go to that compounding, this message that marketing is bad. Well, the answer to that is there's only one way to break that kind of downward spiral, and it is a downward suck, which is to actually market why it is and what it is that you do, and then, maybe he will actually connect with one of the messages. They're actually doing, I think, a very nice job of starting to shift, and this is a second thing, and I'm sorry to extend, but as you are thinking about your marketing, one of the most common mistakes that people who are new to marketing make is, I'd say there are two. The first is they do one thing or two things for a short period of time and think that's it. Repetition matters in a massive way. Right? I can show you the data. It is a line that looks like this. The longer you market, the more effective each piece of marketing is. Right? And you can go back to Psychology 101, right? I have to tell it to you 7 times before you even remember it. Right? I tell it to you 14 times before it actually sinks in. Right? At 21 times, I actually take action on it. Right? So the second thing that I would say is you're thinking about how you market, and whether you just decide, all right, I just want to do it digitally because it's really inexpensive, or however it is, tell narratives. Right? Don't just get your name out. Don't just do the generic. Tell narratives, right? And the wonderful thing about nonprofits, unlike Budweiser, is you actually have great stories to tell. You have great narratives. You have things that are touching. You have things that are inspiring. And if over time you convey those through whatever the form of marketing it is, people will engage with you. And yes, they may initially say, man, you're doing a lot of marketing, but the Red Cross does a lot of marketing, and nobody thinks anymore that it's a bad thing, right? They understand the reason the Red Cross does marketing, and they, by the way, I think do a very nice job over time, because it's not just about the Red Cross, it's about the people they help and why they're helping them, right? So that over time, all of us get a sense of the true essence of the brand. Right? And I know you all probably, none of you think about your brand, but that does matter, right? And the way that you get that over time is when you are doing your marketing, you actually tell real stories. You try to convey not just a tagline, but actually the meaning underneath of why you're special and why someone should care. Other questions? So what I'd say in terms of how the aging of the baby boomers impacts our strategy is if you buy or care about newspapers because of demographics, you should be buying every newspaper in the country, because the next 20 years is going to be the golden age demographically for newspapers. Never before, never again in the history of this country will more people be in the classic sweet spot age-wise of newspaper readership. The second thing that I'd say to that, by the way, no one else believes that other than us, but that's fine. The second thing that I would say is that there's this incredibly common misperception that younger people, basically the younger that you get, the less you interact with print. Totally wrong. 100% wrong. The reason that 99% of newspapers have seen significant declines in their readership of young people has nothing to do with the medium. It has to do with they're not actually telling them anything. They're not giving them anything of any interest. Okay? And it's the same reason that in most newspapers they skew male versus female, because the first thing that newspapers cut was all of the stuff that was interesting to women. If there's nothing in your product, I don't care whether it's digital or print, that you care about, you're not going to read it. Right? So when we think about how we serve Orange County, how we help the community build, we don't think about it from a demographic perspective. We think about it from the ecosystem as a whole. So we created every Sunday, I think I may have mentioned, a varsity music and arts section. It's an entire section just for high school music and arts. It's the only one in the entire country. There is no one else who even covers it, let alone has a section for it. Right? I guarantee you, every high school student who is in music and arts knows about and is engaging in print with that product, right? More importantly for us is that their parents are, who are voters, so that you can't measure music, but you absolutely have to vote to support music. And when they grow up to be voters and when their parents are voters, that fundamental recognition is one of the ways that we hope to, in essence, grow the music ecosystem in Orange County over time. So from a demographic perspective, you know, Rob Curley, who's one of our senior editors, a wonderful card, he says, if you have 2 teeth in your mouth, you're my audience. Basically, from two until 92, you're our audience, right? And what we're trying to do is every day connect with the things you're passionate about, just like y'all are, right? So anyways, that's how we address demographics. Yeah, I think there are 2 things there. One is, yes, I agree, and that certainly is, you know, through the non-marketing side of our business. You know, that's why we do things like the Everyday Heroes column every Monday. That's why we have a whole section for faith and values. It's, you know, because absolutely it is, how can we as an institution at the Register help support nonprofits beyond just what's your percentage of overhead. I do, though, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, believe actually that the myth that only big nonprofits can afford to spend money on marketing, I don't actually, that's mathematically not the case, and here's why. Because 5% of a small amount is just as important as 5% of a big amount, right? And you can spend 5%, which maybe it's only $100. That's marketing. You touch fewer people, but you're a smaller nonprofit, right? So in essence, just because you aren't the size of the American Cancer Society doesn't mean that you can't and shouldn't spend money on marketing, right? So I'll give you a very tangible example. It costs, Teresa, what does a modest size ad in a community newspaper cost? A tier 1 paper. Right. So literally for $45 a week, you could have a nice presence in the community newspaper in the community that you serve, right? And we're not the only one, right? There are other ways that you can spend small dollars and walk your way up. But the power of compounding, going back to the power, is that you have to start somewhere, right? The American Red Cross didn't get to be the American Red Cross just overnight. They built it, right? Compounding over time. And, again, I don't know the full history of every nonprofit, but I'd be very surprised if early in the life of large nonprofits, there wasn't a very strategic commitment to marketing, whatever that marketing may look like, whether it might be through activities like races or direct advertising or direct mail, or, right, there are many different ways. But yes, I certainly understand the challenge that both big and small funders have been, I don't know, inculcated with this notion that the amount of money they give to you, the percentage that flows through should somehow, that's the only measure of success. There are other quantitative ways to measure your business. And if you have people that you want to convey quantitative measures, one of the easiest is how many people do you touch? Right? Which is a very hard number. And by the way, my guess is for most of you, because you're here because you are good, is that number has been going slowly up, right? So if you said, I serve 1,000 people this year, last year I served 950, the year before I served 900, everyone goes, oh, I see now, right? I see where you're going. And then, by the way, if in the following year you budgeted that you were going to spend 5% on marketing, but you were going to serve 950 people, everyone go, oh, I get that, right? So there are ways that you can quantify, because yes, everyone, we like numbers and we like to quantify, but that is, if I had off the top of my head to think of, in essence, a way to address quantitatively the percentage overhead measure, I'd do it on how many people you touch. So, yeah. As the publisher of the Register, I guess the way I would answer that is not really. And I think a lot of that has nothing to do with the people directly in this room, other than there are two people here from the Department of Education. I think that, and by the way, this isn't their issue, actually. They're on the receiving end of this. I think as a community, as a state, as a country, we're massively underinvesting in education. Like, not by a little bit. There are things that we can do, each of us, but fundamentally, it is one of those classic cases of compounding. That when the more you invest, and the problem is, and it's why we do varsity music and arts and have such robust arts coverage generally, that the places that we're underinvesting the most are the places that are the most difficult to measure. But even the places that you can measure, like math and reading, we're massively underinvesting in. We have a huge laptop initiative that we're in the process of preparing to launch for the fall, where we hope that everyone in Orange County who isn't yet a subscriber will subscribe. And it's a very simple program where for every subscriber who signs up for $7 a week and commits to 52 weeks, they can pick a school of their choice, and we'll give them a free laptop. And so, we have, signed up Google. The California Endowment has very generously agreed to step in. We have one or two other kind of major corporate partners we're working to finalize with to do this. But, as we think about tangibly how we fulfill that promise, it's ultimately, it's all about the kids. I think from the for-profit side of the world that there are two ways to think about charity. I think the most common way, which is by far the most difficult way, is that I run my P&L and I make my money, and then at the end I give a small percentage away. Very hard to actually have that over time be a robust part of what you do. We try very hard to, within our business model, build in engagement and partnership with people like OneOC, with a laptop program. We try very hard to do that. I think, organizations like Wells Fargo that are very good at, kind of systematically doing it, they don't view it as I make a profit and then I give a little away. It's part of how they actually engage and build their business. And that's what lets them give 15,000 volunteer hours, because it's just part of how they work with their employee base. So the one thing that I'd say from a pragmatic and tangible perspective is, as you have corporate partners who work and support you, try to figure out how you integrate into their day-to-day business. Try to figure out how you help them engage and make their employees feel good, right? Part of why, Disneyland does a wonderful job of this also, where they give thousands, tens of thousands of volunteer hours. They do it in part for their employees, right? Because their employees feel better about working at Disneyland because Disneyland is helping them volunteer, right? So as you do find and turn on significant supporters, try to integrate into their lives. If they're individuals, integrate into their life. If they're a corporation, try to integrate and touch them in as many ways as possible. Invite the whole staff, not just the one person who's funding you, to come and experience what you do. Create marketing materials that they can share that promote how they are helping you, right? Often it's those little things, but as you integrate into their culture, the return on their investment grows, and it shifts from being simply, I feel good, one or two people about giving, to it's part of how my whole business works, right? And I think as you get more ingrained that way, you're not the first thing that they look to cut, you're the last thing that they look to cut.
I'm going to take that as a great summary piece. But I would like to, if there's a box of thanks a lot in the back. Can I get that, the small one? And I'd like to everybody just, I'm in awe, so I'd like to thank you and have everybody else join you. The content and the commitment was really remarkable this morning, and you are a welcomed part of our community. I don't think anybody could come in such a short amount of time, have people feel like you're part of Orange County. You've done a remarkable job, so thank you for being part of our And we always partner with our fellow nonprofits. There's 3,181 nonprofits in Orange County. For your penetration of the nonprofits that participated in your campaign, that's rather remarkable to do that. Thank you, and thanks a lot from the Girl Scouts.
Yeah, no, thank you to the Girl Scouts. Thank you all very much.
A couple of business pieces I wanted to take care of. One is I wanted to take an opportunity before we got done to once again thank Julie, and if I could have. There isn't a real good way that I could say thanks to Julie, but we could do it our traditional way. And she's the one that came up with the thanks a lot that we give people. And so what I'd like to do is give her thanks a lot. A lot of thanks a lot. So I would encourage you all as you leave today to say a thank you to Julie. Anything you want to say?
I think it's funny. I mean, I couldn't tell. I kept looking at Aaron. It looked like you didn't have one page of notes. I have 5 now. So you've just written a lot of articles for me for papers. But it's been a pleasure. I will continue to do some consulting with OneOC and writing the articles. So I intend for all our paths to cross. So thank you.
So I wanted to once again thank our sponsors, Link, Merle and Chang, Mana G's, also the Meyer Hoffman McCann Group, and also the Orange County Register and KMJ Corbin. Want to also note for you that I didn't mention before, but there is a program that we're doing in conjunction with the Orange County Community Foundation that's coming up on June 18th, so it's next Tuesday. And there is a program, some of you may be aware of the Giving USA reports that come out annually. It's going to come out on Tuesday. We're having at OneOC a presentation that will give you the overview of that report, so you can say, is the economy causing giving to go up? Are there trends? What's been the what to expect? But you'll get the preview and the overview. So that'll take place 9 o'clock to 10:30. I think we ought to all be saying what's happening with philanthropy, and data is important. So I would encourage you to participate. You can sign up for that online. wondering if there's one last thing, other than thank Julie, or talk to our sponsors, thanked Aaron. I think we're going to end on time. You know, the thing about nonprofits is a lot of times I say along the shop that nonprofit is a tax status. It's not a business plan. The other is no margin, no mission. And I think what we heard today was if you approach our business, because we are a corporation, I hate when people say we're a nonprofit, we're not a corporation. We're incorporated by the state of California. We operate businesses. As you said, we have revenue and we have expenses. I think marketing for many nonprofits has been that you have a better newsletter. Marketing, actually, people study that, and it's a lot more than a newsletter. We've heard someone talk about marketing from a strategic perspective of who's your customers, how you position yourself, what promotions, what premiums. So you can do the P's. You can also look at how convenient do you make it for people to be able to access your services. All sorts of different ways. And I hope that everyone leaves today thinking, we, like the Register, need to start thinking about how we can engage the community, and marketing isn't what's more than a four-letter word. Marketing isn't bad. Marketing is essentially what we're doing. And what it reminds me of is Macy's during the recession invested tons in marketing. They're all over the Orange County Register. Other people that didn't invest in marketing actually failed during the recession. And so I think we need to realize that that's part of how we interact, that's how we grow our businesses, how we serve more people. And I want to really, once again, say thank you for helping us be able to tell that story, not only here today, but also in the community, because we do a lot of good work. I think we just need to have more resources. We don't need necessarily have more nonprofits. We just need more resources to help more people. So thank you. Thank you, everybody, for being here today.